And there's another thing I want to acknowledge, which is in life, which is luck, right? So it's all very well to say, hey, we've done all these great things.
It happened because I was brilliant.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going. But people luck is a huge thing in life, right? You can have bad people luck, and you can have good people luck.
Sure.
And we've had a lot of good people luck, right? Hi, welcome to the LoweDown, Wellington's #1 real estate podcast. I'm here again. We're back at it with Adam Coburn, my business partner, colleague, and great friend, and we're going to talk real estate again. So let's get into it. How are you, Adam?
Yeah, I'm good. How about you? How's that arm coming along?
It's getting better.
Yep.
Getting better. So every single day is better, and I've got to do my little exercises every 2 hours. And
I still swear we've got to somehow take advantage of this opportunity when you're down one limb. There must be some way we can take advantage of that. Anyway, look, today we're talking about the Lowe Co story, right? So obviously Lowe Co has been around for a number of years now, but wasn't long ago when it was a new thing, a bit of a startup here in Wellington. So do you want to give us a bit of background? Obviously Lowe Co bears your name. Your name's on the door, so to speak. Give us a bit of background, like what was happening before Lowe Co? What were you doing before that, and how did it come about?
Yeah, so I got into real estate about 24 years ago. I think I was 20 when I got my license, and then started working for a company called Guardian First National. Did that for a couple of years, enjoyed it, even as a young person. Found some success, and ended up getting headhunted by the largest agency in Wellington, and went to work for them. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. It became a passion for me, and I've always found growth is what gets me excited, right? Like progression. And so after 15 years there or something thereabouts, I was the top agent in the company, and I just had built a team around me, and we were having a lot of fun. But we'd sort of hit a bit of a plateau, we're sort of like, what's the next thing? And through a lot of, I suppose, naivety and ignorance, we thought launching a real estate agency seemed like a good idea.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be, right? So, a little bit of ignorance can be a good thing at times.
Yep.
And then,
so you knew enough to be dangerous.
Exactly. And we went out into the wild unknown and jumped out on our own. I think it was late 2015.
Yes, September 2015. Yeah. You just mentioned that you got your license and started selling at the age of 20. Now that's young.
Sure.
I mean, this is not on the list of questions.
Sure.
Right, but how did that go? I mean, how on earth? There can't be many people that start at the age of 20 in selling real estate, and there'll be even fewer that actually make it work and be successful, right?
Yeah. Well, I suppose from my perspective, school didn't work out for me. School.
That's one way of saying it.
And all my friends were going to university, and of course, being a very hyperactive, kind of energetic person, that sitting still was difficult for me. And so I found out real estate was a 3-week course and $300, and I thought all my Christmases would come at once. I could probably concentrate for 3 weeks. So so got the course done, and never looked back. I mean, it suits my personality. It's like, getting torn in 20 different directions all day long is kind of like a drug for my brain. So, I just
chasing the deal, chasing the highs. Unfortunately, the lows come with it.
Yeah, and I've always been, a people person. And I don't like being on my own. Like if I go for a mountain bike ride, I'd rather be with a bunch of buddies, and so that social aspect of it, and that kind of always, being around people is a good part of it as well.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And so just out of that naivety, kind of Lowe Co was born. And tell us the story. I mean, who was there? And back in September 2000, I mean, presumably it was in the planning for a wee while, but September came around and you opened the doors and there was a handful of people. Yeah. It was a fascinating time in my life, I'm really honest. And again, just trying to wear that heart on the sleeve was a very difficult time in my life. My wife and I, we'd just moved into a house we were just settling, on a house that we'd moved into and bought. I had a dog that actually was dying of cancer. And every Friday I was driving to Massey University for, 2.5 hours in the morning, doing, a few hours of chemotherapy with the dog, and then driving back for another 2.5 hours. And I was also, my wife was pregnant with our first baby, and we, There's a lot happening.
Through our wisdom, we decided this would be a good time to open the doors of a brand new business.
Yes.
And
you didn't have enough on.
It didn't have enough on, so we just decided to do that. And then I still remember, getting the phone call while we're sort of fitting out offices in secret. We're having to do things at night time to get things done. Still selling real estate during the day, still got to keep the cash flow coming in.
Yes. Yeah.
And I still remember getting a phone call from my wife to say, she'd been diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is very serious, and during pregnancy, blood pressure was way up, and the doctors had said that although our baby was small for dates, they were going to induce her. And they'd done a whole lot of, they sort of measure the bones and stuff, and they try and work out the weight. And they thought that Rosa was going to be 2.2 kg, and she was delivered at 1.5 kg with a hole in her heart and a brain bleed as well. So she was in neonates in a incubator for 6 weeks while we launched Lowe Co, and while we opened the doors, while having to work all day long during the day selling real estate under this new brand, trying to make that work, and then going to the hospital to visit my wife and newborn in the incubator. So and then having the dog on Fridays, having to go up to Massey University and give the dog chemotherapy. So it really was an intense period. And if I look back on it now and think about it, stress is like a muscle, I think, and actually. One positive of all of this, it was a tough time. Got to be resilient. We got through it, and everything apart from the dog dying, all of those things are the best things that ever happened to me in my life, right? They're but at the time, of course, didn't seem like it, and so I think now things, big things seem much easier to me now, I think, than they would if I hadn't been through that experience, because I think you sort of flex that muscle of stress absorption. And it just makes the rest of life seem a little bit easier in contrast.
Yeah, goodness me. I mean, that's a lot of really high stress kind of things happening all at the same time. I mean, I haven't had the same situation, but if I look back at some points in my life and I think to myself, geez, what was I thinking, taking on all those things at the same time? And but at the time, I didn't even give it a moment's thought. So I mean,
it's like being on a treadmill, right? Like you can't get off it. You're just on the treadmill. You just keep going.
Make it a little bit faster. Make it a little bit faster,
right.
And then you get off and you realise, shivers, that was fast.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, obviously, you're still married. You've got 3 children now, and the business has flourished. So I mean, if you look back, how did you cope with juggling all that stuff? I mean, that's a lot. That would break more than some people, to be fair.
Well, I think there's two really important things. One of them is to have amazing people around you. They say stand on the shoulders of giants, and that I'm a very imperfect human being, like everyone is.
There's a laugh.
Don't laugh too hard.
There's a laugh of recognition there, mate.
And so having working with them. I mean, there's 2 sides to this, right? First of all, working with amazing people is one of the best experiences for me personally, for my personality. I just love it. I mean, there's just nothing more exciting in life than going to work every day because you love the people that you work with and getting to do cool shit with cool people, right?
And indeed, at Lowe Co here we say tap dance to work, right?
Tap dance work because we love the people we work with, right? Yeah. And so that side of it, so filling your blind spots, right? And I think the key is you've got to be self-aware about what your blind spots are, and that's easier said than done sometimes, right? But you want people that are going to be honest with you. You want to be resilient enough to hear, when you're not doing things right. And I think by having a good support team around you of people that are better at you, at doing the things you're not good at, then you can achieve amazing things with less input than it seems on the surface, right? You look at it and you go, oh my God, how's that all possible? But actually, it's a team effort, right? And that for me is the key. The other thing is I made a decision when Rosa, my oldest, was born, that I wasn't going to work evenings. I mean, 20 years in real estate, you work 6 days a week, or 7 days a week, really. Your phone's always on. Now my phone's always on, right? And for anyone at Lowe Co, for support for any clients or customers that I need to deal with, no problem answering the phone. My family's used to it. I'm used to it. It's just more of a lifestyle than a job. But I won't do an appointment at 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night anymore. And I made the decision when we launched Lowe Co. So I think having clear boundaries, and I live close to work. So I get 2 hours in the morning with my family, and I get 2 hours, before the kids go to bed at night, and I do story time, and I do all those things that a father should do. So, that was just a conscious decision. Then everything else has to work around those parameters and those boundaries.
Yeah, yeah. And I think some people might be surprised to hear that, because I think there can be an expectation that a real estate agent is 24/7 on, right? And I certainly remember when I started, I was so keen not to miss out on even the remotest chance of a little scrap of business, that the phone rang. It doesn't matter what's going on, you have to answer it, right? But it doesn't have to be that way forever, right?
I've got a story about that, and it's probably one of my greatest life regrets, actually.
Right. I think I know what you're about to say.
Yes. So, well, I years ago, when I was exactly like you, I was enthusiastic, I'm just chasing the deals, enjoying the people, really wanted everything. And a buddy of mine and I were training for the Rotorua Marathon.
Yes.
Have I told you the story about it?
Yeah.
I'll tell it again.
But it's a good story.
So, and we trained every week. We were running, building up, and being young and silly, we ended up building right up to the full marathon length, which you're not actually. I believe you're not meant to do, but we did it anyway.
Yep.
So for 2 weekends in a row, we ran 42 kilometres, and so I had a target time that I wanted to beat and everything. And of course, the Rotorua Marathon is a famous marathon in New Zealand. So it's the one you want to do. You want to tick it off, you can do a marathon. Yep. Super excited about that. Obviously, all that training. And but I was a few years into my real estate career, way more hungry for that.
Yes.
And I got a phone call from a guy who was going to be in Wellington on the weekend of the Rotorua Marathon with a house to sell.
Yes.
And I look back on this moment and I just think, I can't remember the house. I can't even tell you whether I secured the business, right?
I don't even
recall. I can't remember anything about it.
If you got the reward for paying the price.
Yeah. But I decided not to do the Rotorua Marathon that weekend and to go and see this person at this house and try and secure the business because that's what I was excited about at the time.
Yeah.
And I never ran the Rotorua Marathon. So that was that's a regret of mine. But it's to your point that when you're early in this career, and it's normal. I think it's good. It's healthy in some ways to be that passionate that you'll run to the end of the earth for a client. You'll run to the end of the earth to get a job done, to do a deal. Because you have to have that passion in real estate. Otherwise, you.
Sometimes to get going, sometimes to get credibility in the space, sometimes to build your business, you need to
drive.
You need to pay.
A
big price.
Yeah.
You need to pay a big price.
It's a competitive game, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, very competitive game, and you've got to run fast. You've got to run hard. And
that's hilarious. You can't even remember if you got the business.
I can't tell you. So
what you do remember though is what you gave up.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's one of my big regrets in life. I have too many of them, but that's certainly one of them.
Yeah. Now you've talked about having great people around you. I mean, who were the great people that you launched Lowe Co with way back then?
Well, my current business partners, which include yourself, but on that when you came into the scene later, we was actually my immediate team, which is Aaron Nation, Emma Young, Emma of course now top agent in Wellington, incredible. She's got an incredible story, and Angie Foster. We did also, just as an interesting thing that happened in that time period when we launched, we had 2 other business partners who actually, it's a big deal leaving, your current agency to go and do something new, this huge risk. And they actually pulled out, the last hurdle, and the capital was literally paid in the bank. We were all paid up, which we refunded to them. And I don't hold any grudges about that. I mean, that was a huge thing that they were doing, and they're lovely people, and I respect and huge respect for them even today. But it was another really difficult thing losing, having probably a third of our sales team that we were going to launch with just ripped out from under us on day one while all that other stuff was going on. So,
because of course. Scale is one of the keys in the game of real estate, right? So 100%. If you lose, you had 4 salespeople, you and 3 others, right? And these other 2 would have made 6. So as you say, 1/3 disappeared. So going from 6 to 4, that makes a difference in the scale, right? Because I imagine you would have wanted to come out and hit the market with an armful of listings.
Ideally,
right?
Absolutely. It's a scale game for sure.
Yeah. And then the other person, of course, that you started was your PA at the time. Was Kyla was your PA at the time, and now she's an absolutely phenomenal powerhouse of a GM.
Yeah, that's right. So Kyla started. I mean, she was working for 14 agents, I think, at the time. and was doing PA work across all 14 people, which is, if you think about, I mean, you know how tough it is to do that, right? That's an incredible person
that's
that can.
insane.
And so Kyla now, you know, I mean, she's a business partner. She's a shareholder in the business. She's, you know, one of our senior leaders in the business, and you know, really, she is a world-class executive. I mean, there's no one like Kyla, I think, you know, around. I mean,
hard to find another one of them.
Hard to find another one of those, right? So she's been integral to the growth of Lowe Co, and you know, I'd say one of the biggest pleasures you get out of this, and we can talk more about this later, but you know, watching the growth of people, watching Kyla go from where she was to where she is today as a person, as a leader, financial benefits, like it's one of the biggest pleasures that you'll ever get from running a business is seeing that kind of growth people go through.
Yeah, amazing. No doubt for those people that are listening that are, I suppose most people who are listening will be Wellingtonians, and one thing that Lowe Co has been known for a long time is the black Lowe Co billboards.
Sure.
Tell us about that. I mean, how did that come about, and why billboards? And tell us that story.
Well, I think if you think about the way real estate works, it's a brand game, you know, and the value that a seller and an agent gets too. Like an agent that comes to work for us is really you know, the brand is part of the value we provide to them, because the brand means something. You're on the shopping list when you're with Lowe Co. You know that you're more likely to get into the door, and you have a higher chance of converting because the brand means something to people. And so we knew that, we also were scaling the business at the same time. So, and then the second thing is that it's a hyper local game, right? So if you think about like what do you call it, like digital advertising on, say, a phone. There's something sort of quite international or quite sort of not quite local about it, right? You almost like your brain's plugged to the internet, right, into the digital realm, and you're sort of seeing stuff from all over the globe, and you're sort of getting a bit lost there. Whereas
it is the World Wide Web, not the Wellington Wide Web.
Well said. And so, you know, so that was another insight I think we had was, you know, we want to be seen as being the local players, right? Which we are. Yeah. And so, you know, if you can own a corner and you can, you know, ideally give something a little bit humorous, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. You know, this was certainly our strategy when we started to kind of show that we wouldn't take ourselves too seriously. If someone's driving past, there's going to be a billboard there whether it's us or not. So we can give them 2 seconds of value, give them a smile. You know, that was our concept. And also it meant that we were hyper local and we kind of owned that corner. And I think real estate, that's powerful. And then one other point on that, as you ask about the billboard specifically, you know, we wanted to own one thing and do it well. You know, we don't want
one media channel,
right? We don't want to do, you know, 10 or 20 and spread ourselves thin. We said, well, hey, if we're going to do this, let's lean into it, do it well. And of course, as you point out, we got known for them, and you know, it's been a good thing.
Yeah. One thing that kind of occurs to me is that was there something about being like hyper Wellington centric? I mean, obviously Lowe Co is only Wellington. Right, there's no Lowe Co somewhere else, unlike a lot of other brands, right? I mean, obviously we're part of the Anco group, but I don't know. For me, I certainly at the start, I felt that Lowe Co was like a hyper Wellington centric. I don't know, some kind of loyalty, like we're here. We're Wellington, we're from Wellington, we're Wellingtonians for Wellingtonians, or something like that. Was there anything like that going on?
Well, I think
Or did I just make that up?
No. Well, I suppose that's what I mean by hyperlocal to some degree. But I think, you know, there's 2 things about this game, right? One of them is that when you're an agent built with a team, you're building a personal profile, right? So, you know, Craig Lowe, you know, working for a different firm, I was putting my name and face out there. And so when we launched, you know, it made sense to, you know, if we'd gone with, say, a national franchise, I don't want to put Mr. White's name on the sign that has no local, you know, presence. Or no, better example would be, you know, and it's something like Property Brokers, which is huge up north. And we wouldn't choose that to be here. It doesn't mean anything, right? Whereas at the time, you know, we were being the top agent at the top agency in Wellington with a personal profile, being able to leverage that name was Wellington based, right? And it meant something to people. So that was really how that came about. It's always, you know, you always feel uncomfortable having your name in lights, but the reality is there was a reason for it. And so I think you're right. I think that it means something to Wellingtonians to be with a local brand, because if some head office, some agency and the head office is in Auckland making branding decisions for us locally, you know, that's not going to resonate with the local crowd. So
nice. While we're on the topic of billboards, a few years ago there was this I don't know, like this online fake billboard kind of campaign that was ripping off and spoofing kind of Lowe Co billboards.
Remember it well.
Tell us what happened there. What was that all about?
So yes, there's a backstory to that that's never been told, which I think is fascinating, and I don't even know if you knew before today about
mate, I think there's probably a number of people who might be listening that can't even remember it or don't even know about it. Maybe tell us the backstory, like what actually happened. What was this guy doing?
So there was a couple of guys that built they're sort of hacktivists, so to speak. I think they were kind of in the background. They see themselves being clever hackers that could kind of take people down and that kind of thing. And probably had a bit of a bent against real estate agents. Generally, their bias would be against real estate agents, right? And so they created a website. We had all these billboards all around town that were very loud and proud at the time. Of course, it was a booming market, so we had more funds for that kind of thing, and they were everywhere. And again, we were trying to be tongue-in-cheek, trying to have these sayings that we think were humorous, like chances are we'll see you Sunday, right?
Yes,
because everyone was out there open hunting at the time. So
we got more houses than billboards.
We got more listings than, believe it or not, we got more listings than billboards, things like that were quite tongue-in-cheek. We were trying to be self-deprecating with it, right? But it could be seen in a couple of different lights. And this website was created by these guys where you could create meme billboards, and they were actually really clever because it was photos of the real billboards, right? It was, and it was incredibly, it was a sophisticated idea where people could just log on to the site and could just make their own Lowe Co billboards with pithy sayings, like we were doing. Right? And of course, this sort of took off. Like they had put it onto certain websites that they knew where there would be kind of a bit of a bias against real estate agents. Perhaps the sort of Vic deals and a few other places where there was younger people that couldn't get into the housing market, and they thought this would be a good spot for it. And people did. They made these really negative billboards. I mean, some of them were terrible in terms of the points that they were making, both against real estate agents, but also just generally there was some quite shocking ones made. I think one was like, "Stop being poor," full stop. Lowe Co. Just sort of, And anyway, this went viral. So we ended up on actually international media. It ended up all over New Zealand news in the papers. I started getting people calling me, from the wanting to interview us. I got quoted on several articles about our take on it, and it was a really tough time. If you actually think brands would sometimes kill for this kind of exposure. You'd think like wow, we've got international media, national media. The problem was that it was just slightly, the timing was really poor for us with the housing crisis being a huge topic, and of course some people blame the middle person for that. You and I know there's no merit in that, but that's perception out there, right? So it was a tough time. It was hard for the team. It was hard for me personally. The backstory, which I think not a lot of people know, is that the person who created it had actually tried to transact a private sale with his neighbour before this all happened, and what happened is agents from Lowe Co had actually advised the potential private seller, not to sell to their neighbour, because we're in a booming market. You get one chance to sell your asset.
How can you be sure you get the best price?
Yeah, and she was this lady was a beautiful lady, incredible, and she deserved to get the maximum for her market price for her house at that time. So that was the advice. And when we went to market, obviously she said no to him, and they didn't transact. And
he's welcome to make an offer. As with everyone else.
Exactly.
Level playing field.
Make the offer. And he made the same offer to her as he had made actually in that process, but missed out by a significant amount of money. And of course, that's unfortunate. But when you look at it, she got the market price. The right advice was given to her. But of course now he's probably fuming, because the reality is he's driving past these billboards every day saying, "Believe it or not, we've got more listings than billboards." The big one that was on the way out to that area, and just was steaming away, and then decided to do this takedown.
Yes, right. So he was venting his frustration.
Yeah. Fascinating experience to go through all that. It really was, and I think by and large we were really supported by the community, and we have continued to be, but it was a tough time.
Yeah. And so how did it go away in the end? Did it just sort of melt away, or were there steps taken to actually actively?
It's a great question. Yeah. So one of the things that happened was that they had actually illegally they had a domain name that was similar to ours.
Oh, yeah.
So they'd done that, and we had to go through a process to get that domain name back. But that was ruled in our favour. And also that potentially the website they created was breaching copyright and stuff. But the reality is, all we wanted was a domain name back. That's all we went for. We weren't going to take it. I mean, got empathy for these situations. The reality is, the guy must sell on a house. The housing crisis is a real thing. People were really struggling out there. So I got no hard feelings whatsoever towards them. But the reality is, that was just a story for what happened. And now we move on.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Lowe Co has had quite an amazing growth story, right? So, end of 2015. So we're coming up to 9 years now. In fact, almost 9 years exactly, right? September 2024.
That's right.
That'll be 9 years. But in that time, gone from starting with 4 salespeople, and now was it 50, 40, 49?
Yeah,
or almost 50.
Yeah,
right. In a relatively short period of time. So for that sort of growth, to enjoy that sort of growth in what's reasonably modest sort of a market size, really, Wellington real estate. There must be something different about the agency. I mean, to distinguish it from others in the space and that sort of thing. I mean, what do you think's behind that? What makes Lowe Co different, do you think?
Sure, it's a great question. I think there's two things to acknowledge, right? We had the naivety, ignorance, and gumption to go out on our own, which was a huge risk at the time. And we didn't have the resources to train brand new agents. I mean, you need it's a tough gig that, right? You need only 1 in 10 or something like that survive. You need big resources to put into training brand new agents, and we didn't have that. But what we did have was a great team, and we started straight away with building a great brand. And early on, of course, we wanted other great people that we loved, and we wanted to tap dance to work because we love the people we work with. And I still remember, we talked to you. You were working at a different agency, and there's another thing I want to acknowledge, which is in life, which is luck, right? So it's all very well to say, hey, we've done all these great things.
It happened because I was brilliant.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going. But people luck is a huge thing in life, right? You can have bad people luck, and you can have good people luck.
Sure.
And we've had a lot of good people luck, right? And having people trusting us, like yourself, really early on, coming on board as a business partner, and that has just helped turbocharge the business, both from a sales. You talked about being a scale game. You've got to get scale quickly in this game to make it work. And so people luck was a huge thing early on. And then I think we leveraged that well with our brand and the support that we provide. So when we look at the advantages that Lowe Co has, we easily have the most recognisable, most powerful brand in the marketplace, easily. That's been very purposeful. And we provide support that's unparalleled in the Wellington market. I mean, we take 30 hours per transaction away from the administration workflow of a salesperson. And so, and then when you take that plus the scale that Lowe Co has, so the cross-selling opportunities for sellers, because if you're selling a house, you want 50 agents working for you, and their pool of buyers, that network effect to be really make selling with Lowe Co to be better. So when you take an agent can come and work for us, they can actually build a more powerful business on their here than they can elsewhere, because the brand and because they get the support to do so. And then we pay better. We allow people to leverage their business. Salespeople to leverage because they have more margin to be able to bring on buyer specialists, customer care people, and really scale a big business. So those I would say, and then, it's an old saying, you can't sell culture, and I believe that's some of your experience when you come in, but I'd say our culture is really, really strong. Yeah.
And there certainly have been a lot of teams that have kind of been started and grown and flourished at Lowe Co, and it occurs to me that that's also potentially a good way for someone to start as well. If someone wants to get into real estate, very difficult getting your license and then starting cold from scratch on your own. Whereas, especially I suppose if you're relatively young, whereas if you join a successful team, already got transactions just flowing across your desk all the time, that's a good way to turbo start a real estate career. Would you agree with that?
100% agree. I mean, we've been very fortunate at Lowe Co to, that we've got a lot of successful teams, and I think that comes from the DNA of Lowe Co. I mean, we came from building a team, way back in the days when we were, when I was operating as a standalone agent, and so that kind of, I guess, got injected into the DNA of how Lowe Co operates, and so we're really about scaling agents. We're less, we can take people from 0 to 20, listings.
Yep.
But actually, our real talent is taking people from 20 to 40 to 60 and beyond.
Per annum, you mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Exactly. And so scaling an agent through allowing them to get the support that we give them on day one.
Yeah, the systems.
Then allowing them to scale through people leverage, and that really works for us.
Yeah. Very good. And you've talked about the admin support and the 30 hours per listing, so and we call that the engine room, right? I mean, and that's Kyla's genius.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a great point. Kyla is she's a what do you call it? She's like a resource engineer.
Yes.
And she's one of the most diligent people I've ever met and detail focused people I've ever met. So she is really integral to how that all runs. But it really does work for salespeople. And yourself. I mean, what's your experience of that? I mean,
of the engine room?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, remarkable how much of that admin workload has been taken off. When I came across my hands, I mean, obviously, I was there from sort of 3 months in, and it's grown a lot since then. But when new agents come on, I often hear them talking about how they just cannot believe how much work gets taken off their hands and the amount of time and headspace, I suppose, that gives them back to be able to focus on what the agent is there to do, really, which is talking to buyers, talking to sellers, and focusing on what they do best.
Because deals are floating past us that we don't grab.
Yes.
Because we're in the weeds, right? We're doing administration in our work, and we're a lot of people, the public. It'd be hard for the public to truly understand, the workflow of an agent in terms of the administration, right? It's a huge part of the business, huge function, and so that is as soon as that's taken away from you. You can see those things floating past you that you were missing before. So
totally.
The business actually scales
on both sides
immediately.
Right? Listings and sellers and buyers.
Yeah,
totally. Very good. So, I mean, looking back, if you had your time again, would you do anything different?
Gosh, that's a great question, Adam. I think I'd have to say the answer to that is no. But I tell you why. And I mean, there's always things, but in life, I mean, first of all, obviously it's worked out, right? So, there's nothing I can't say it could have been better than it's been. It's been fantastic. We're having huge growth. But secondly, all the mistakes we have made, because, life is just one feedback loop of you try something, it either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you try it again differently until it does work, right? So mistakes are good, ultimately, as long as they're not, risk to your life or the whole apple cart over. So, we've just been making one mistake after the other for the last 9 years. And,
so you've taken the mantra fail fast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so so I can honestly say I don't have any regrets from Lowe Co's perspective as a business. Yeah, but I'd like to go back and do that Rotorua marathon.
Oh yes, come on, let's do it together. Fantastic. Well, look, that's fantastic. Great insights, and thanks for sharing all that. I mean, anything you'd like to say in closing to wrap this up?
No, I mean, I'm going to say thank you to you, Adam, for trusting us early and what you've done for our business, and as being one of the best business partners I could ever hope for. So,
oh my goodness! Oh, shucks, folks. Awesome. Thanks so much, Craig.
Guys, that was the LoweDown. We appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe. We're going to have lots more real estate conversations. Have a good day.